Millionaire tries to buy love with a huge sum of money, but gets the biggest shock of his life. What happens when a man with everything, money, power, fame, tries to buy something that can't be bought? What if he's been playing a game for years, thinking that love, loyalty, and control are just things to be won? But what if, this time, the stakes are higher than he could have ever imagined? In today's story, we dive into the twisted journey of a millionaire who believes that with his vast wealth, he can win over anyone, especially love. But when he meets a woman who challenges everything he knows about power and desire, his entire world is turned upside down. He offers her the most tempting deal, a sum of money so large it could change her life forever. What starts as an innocent wager turns into a dangerous game, where emotions, power, and trust collide, and the line between love and manipulation blurs. The millionaire, so confident in his ability to control the situation, is blindsided when he realizes that the game they are playing isn't just about money, it's about control of the soul. The woman he thought he could buy is far more powerful than he ever anticipated. But the ultimate twist? She's playing him, on a scale he can't even comprehend. And in the end, the only thing he's left with is the shocking realization that love isn't something that can be bought. It's something that either connects or destroys. As the city lights blink beneath the towering skyscraper, the weight of the night presses in. The penthouse, overlooking the sprawling city below, should feel like a place of victory, but instead, it's thick with an eerie stillness. The soft hum of the air conditioning, the distant noise of the traffic, everything feels far away, like the world outside is a dream. Inside, he stands by the window, his back turned to the woman sitting behind him at the glass table. The room is dimly lit, the shadows playing tricks with the edges of his mind. The faint sound of his breathing is the only thing that cuts through the silence, and even that feels strained, as if something is about to break. His hand shakes slightly as he reaches for the glass of wine. He has never felt this uncertain before, never felt this vulnerable. He's the one with the power, the wealth, the influence. Yet tonight, it's all slipping away. There's a gnawing feeling in his chest, a discomfort he can't shake, as if he's about to make a decision that will cost him everything. She watches him quietly, her presence in the room almost too calm, too collected. Her eyes, cold and calculating, follow every move he makes. Her face is emotionless, yet there's something in her gaze that makes him uneasy. It's as if she's already won, and he's just too blind to realize it. What he doesn't know is that his wealth, his power, his confidence, all of it, is meaningless in her world. She's not impressed by his money or his charm. She's here for something entirely different. The stakes couldn't be higher, and neither of them is willing to back down. But what if the game they are playing isn't just about money? What if it's about something far more dangerous? What if the biggest shock of his life isn't the woman's betrayal, but the truth about who she really is? Let's dive into the story and see how one man's attempt to buy love leads to the unraveling of everything he thought he knew. How far would you go for love? Would you risk everything you have, your heart, your soul, your sanity? And what happens when you discover that love isn't something that can be bought, it's something that either consumes or sets you free? Stay with us, because this story will make you question everything. The penthouse is quiet, save for the distant hum of the city far below. Through the large windows, the glittering lights of the skyline flicker in rhythmic patterns, an endless sea of light stretching across the horizon. But inside, the room is anything but peaceful. It is as though the weight of the world is pressing down on every surface, every inch of the space. The polished marble floors reflect the dim light from the chandelier above, casting sharp shadows that only add to the feeling of isolation. There's an oppressive stillness in the air, as if the room is holding its breath, waiting for something to break. The air feels thick, heavy, charged with an energy that neither of them can fully control. The silence between them is deafening. He stands by the window, his hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the city. Every so often, he glances at her, seated across the room at the large glass table, completely absorbed in whatever she's doing. Her stillness is unnerving. She's so calm, so composed. It's as though the world around her doesn't matter, like the tension doesn't touch her at all. The more he watches her, the more he can't seem to understand why he's so unsettled. He's the one with all the power. He's the one who could walk away at any moment with a smile on his face, leaving everything behind. But she is the enigma he can't solve. She doesn't need his money, his charm, or his promises. She doesn't even seem to care for the game he's playing. He feels the need for control, always. The wealth, the status, it's how he's lived his entire life. It's his world, where everything bends to his will. But in her presence, his power seems meaningless. There's an underlying fear gnawing at him, an invisible threat creeping under his skin, making him wonder if maybe, just maybe, he's losing his grip. His hands, which usually remain steady and composed, twitch slightly at his sides, betraying his inner turmoil. He forces himself to breathe deeply, trying to calm the storm building within him. It's an unfamiliar sensation. He's not used to feeling this way, but she has a way of making him doubt everything he's ever known about control, about power, about who he really is. She, on the other hand, is a study in calm. Her demeanor is tranquil, almost distant. She doesn't look at him, doesn't even acknowledge his presence as she flips through the pages of a book, a faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. Her silence is a weapon, a shield. She's not rattled by his presence, his power, or his games. She doesn't need to speak to dominate the room. Every move she makes, every subtle glance she gives him, leaves him with more questions than answers. And that drives him crazy, because no matter how hard he tries, he can't figure her out. For the first time, he feels completely exposed, and it terrifies him. Finally, the tension becomes too much. He's had enough. The walls he's built around himself, the walls he's spent years perfecting, are starting to crumble under the weight of her indifference. He can't take it anymore. He turns to face her, the sharp movement catching her attention. For the first time, she looks up, meeting his gaze. Her eyes are calm, but there's something in them, something inscrutable that unsettles him further. He's had enough of the games, enough of the silence. What do you want from me? The words come out before he can stop them. They are harsh, frustrated, and full of the emotion he's been hiding from himself. He's never been one to plead, never been one to show vulnerability, but in this moment, he can't help himself. There's a desperation in his voice that surprises even him. For a long moment, she says nothing, simply holding his gaze with an unreadable expression. It's almost like she's waiting for him to crack, to admit to something he doesn't even fully understand yet. Her eyes, those cold, calculating eyes, seem to pierce right through him. The stillness between them stretches, and the longer it lasts, the more fragile he feels. When she finally speaks, it's with a calm that cuts through him like a knife. "I don't want anything from you," she says, her voice soft but laced with an underlying edge. "You're the one who's lost everything." Her words hit him like a thunderclap. It's not what he expected. He wanted answers. He wanted control over the situation. But instead, she's turned the tables on him in the most subtle yet devastating way. He stands there, frozen, the weight of her words sinking in. What does she mean? Lost everything. He still has everything, doesn't he? The money, the power, the house, the car, the life that everyone envies. What is she talking about? His mind races, trying to piece together what she's saying, but it doesn't make sense. The more he tries to grasp the meaning behind her words, the further it slips from his understanding. And that, more than anything, unsettles him. As the silence lingers, the tension in the room grows unbearable. The conversation has shifted. No longer is this just a game of attraction, of power, of money. Now, it's something far more dangerous. He's no longer in control. She's flipped the entire dynamic on its head, and he's left grappling for something to hold on to. His mind is spinning. He knows something has changed, something deep, something irreversible. But what is it? What does she mean? Her calmness, her indifference, is like a force of nature, pushing him into deeper confusion, deeper desperation. The man who always had the answers, the man who always had the power, now feels completely powerless. And as he stands there, wondering what the hell is happening, she doesn't move, doesn't react. She simply waits, her eyes never leaving his, as though daring him to figure it out. But the truth? It's becoming painfully clear. The stakes are no longer about money, no longer about control. It's something far more personal, far more devastating. This scene sets up the central conflict of the story, the millionaire's misguided belief that he can buy anything, including love, and the woman's power to dismantle his sense of control. The stakes are elevated, and the emotional tension between the characters intensifies, propelling the narrative into deeper, more complex territory. Scene 2: Escalation of conflict. As the days pass, the pressure begins to build. Every moment, every encounter between them is charged with an undercurrent of tension he can't seem to shake. He's spent his life using his wealth, charm, and influence to bend the world to his will, but with her, nothing works the way he expects. It's as though she's immune to the power he wields so easily over others. His frustration is mounting. He tries to force her into submission with grand gestures, lavish gifts, and promises of an indulgent future, but it only pushes her further away. She doesn't care about his money or his status. Every attempt to win her over feels like a failure, a reminder that he is not as invincible as he once believed. He watches her with growing irritation, wondering what it is that keeps her so distant, so elusive. She doesn't need him. She doesn't want him. The wealth, the luxury, it's meaningless to her, and that thought gnaws at him. Every conversation with her, every silence, only makes him question everything he's built his life on. His power is slipping through his fingers like sand in the wind, and he can't do anything to stop it. The unease grows each day, and it's beginning to eat away at his self-confidence. He's not used to this. He's always been the one in control. But with her, he feels like he's losing himself. His grip on the situation is slipping, and the harder he tries to fix it, the worse it gets. He begins to wonder if he's even capable of winning her over, or if this is a game he's doomed to lose. Key conflict interaction. The breaking point comes one evening when he's sitting across from her, trying once again to make his case. The grand gestures haven't worked, but maybe, just maybe, a more direct approach will get through to her. "I don't understand," he says, his voice laced with frustration. "I've given you everything. What else do you want from me?" She looks up from the book she's been reading, her eyes narrowing slightly, as though she's been waiting for him to ask the question. A flicker of amusement plays at the corner of her lips, but it's not a smile, it's more of a challenge. "You think you know everything about me," she challenges, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You have no idea who I really am." Her words are like a slap in the face. He's stunned for a moment, the harshness of her tone catching him off guard. But the sting of it quickly fades, replaced by a simmering anger. He stands, slamming his hand against the table. "What the hell does that mean?" he demands, his voice rising. "I've given you everything. Money, power, freedom. What more do you need?" She stands too, her calmness only fueling his rage. "You think your money can buy everything. You think it can fix everything. But you're wrong. You don't know the first thing about me, and you never will." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He's used to people praising his wealth, his influence. He's used to people wanting something from him. But her, she's different, and that difference drives him to the edge. She's mocking him now, questioning everything he's built, and it drives him mad. "You think you're some kind of god, don't you?" she spits, her voice sharp. "But you're just a man. A broken man who thinks he can buy his way out of everything." The insult cuts deep, deeper than anything he's ever experienced. For the first time, he realizes that she's not just rejecting him, she's rejecting everything he stands for. His power, his wealth, his sense of superiority. It's all meaningless to her. "Maybe I am broken," he snaps, his voice suddenly cold, almost too calm. "But I can fix myself, and I can fix you, too. You don't have to be this way. Let me help you." Her laugh is sharp and bitter. "Help me? You don't even understand what I need. You're too busy trying to fix yourself to see that you're the one who needs fixing." The words echo in his mind long after she's left the room. The sting of her words lingers, and for the first time, he feels truly exposed. She's right. He's spent his entire life hiding behind his wealth, his power, his control. And now, in front of her, it all feels hollow. The realization doesn't hit him all at once. It comes in waves, slowly crashing over him with increasing intensity. Over the next few days, he can't shake the feeling that has been played, that she's been playing him from the very beginning, and he never saw it coming. Every moment he spends with her only confirms it. She doesn't need him. She doesn't want his money. And the more he tries to win her over, the more she slips further away. He's not in control of this game. She is. The woman he thought he could easily manipulate, The one he thought he could buy with lavish gifts and promises has turned the tables on him. She's the one pulling the strings, and he's the one dancing to her tune without even realizing it. In that moment, standing alone in his penthouse, he has a crushing epiphany. He's not the one in charge. He's the one being manipulated. Everything he thought he knew about power and control is upside down. And worse, he realizes that he's losing everything, not just with her, but with himself. The walls he's built around his life, around his identity, are crumbling. And he's powerless to stop it. Escalating stakes. The realization hits hard, but it only serves to escalate the tension between them. What started as a game of power, of manipulation, has now spiraled into something far more dangerous. He can no longer hide behind his wealth or his influence. The stakes are higher now. This isn't just about money, it's about control. And the more he digs, the deeper he sinks into a web he doesn't know how to escape. Every interaction with her feels like another step into a trap. The more he tries to assert his dominance, the more she pulls away, mocking him, challenging him, forcing him to confront his own insecurities. He's losing himself in the process. The stakes are no longer about winning her over, they are about his own survival, his own identity. And as each day passes, the tension between them builds. He can feel the danger rising, but he doesn't know how to stop it. The more he uncovers about her, the more he realizes that he's only scratched the surface. The deeper he goes, the more dangerous it becomes. But one thing is certain, the game is no longer under his control, and the consequences of losing it could be far worse than he ever imagined. This scene deepens the emotional and psychological conflict of the story as the millionaire realizes the power dynamic has shifted. His struggles intensify, and the stakes are raised as he confronts the harsh truth about his own vulnerability. The emotional tension is heightened, propelling the narrative toward the next phase of the story. The penthouse feels suffocating, the once luxurious space now a prison for his racing thoughts. Every corner seems darker, every shadow deeper. The walls, adorned with priceless art, now seem to close in on him, reflecting his growing anxiety. For the first time in years, he feels small, insignificant, like a pawn in a game he doesn't understand. She's been quiet all day, her movements deliberate and measured. There's something in the air, a tension so thick it's almost tangible. He can't ignore it anymore. The certainty he once felt, the confidence in his control, is gone. Now, there's only doubt, fear, and a gnawing sense that something big is about to happen. As he watches her from across the room, he's struck by how calm she is. She sits on the edge of the balcony, the city lights framing her like a queen surveying her kingdom. Her posture is regal, her expression serene, but there's a sharpness in her eyes, a cold, calculating edge that sends a shiver down his spine. He knows she's hiding something. He's known it for weeks. But what terrifies him the most is the possibility that whatever she's about to reveal could destroy him. The truth is unveiled. Unable to bear the silence any longer, he steps onto the balcony, the cool night air biting at his skin. She doesn't turn to look at him, but he knows she's aware of his presence. For a moment, he hesitates, unsure of how to start. Then, with a voice that's firmer than he feels, he speaks. "I need answers," he says, the words cutting through the tension like a knife. "I can't do this anymore. Whatever game you're playing, it ends tonight." She sighs, a sound that's both weary and amused, and finally turns to face him. Her expression is unreadable, but her eyes burn with an intensity that makes his chest tighten. "You want the truth?" she asks, her voice calm but laced with something he can't quite place. "Are you sure you're ready for it?" He nods, though his stomach churns with unease. "Yes, I need to know." She steps closer, her gaze never leaving his. For a moment, he thinks she's going to reach out to him, but then she crosses her arms, creating a barrier between them. "You think this is about a bet?" she begins, her voice low and steady. "You think I'm just some woman you can play with, some prize you can win, but you've underestimated me." He frowns, confusion flickering across his face. "What are you talking about?" She lets out a bitter laugh, shaking her head. "Do you remember the name Richards?" His heart skips a beat. The name stirs something in his memory, but he can't quite place it. "Richards," he repeats, his voice hesitant. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything," she snaps, her voice sharp and cutting. My father was James Richards. He owned a small company, a company you destroyed. The words hit him like a freight train. His mind races, trying to connect the dots. James Richards, the name resurfaces, buried under years of deals, contracts, and ruthless business decisions. He remembers now a small company struggling to survive, swallowed up by his empire without a second thought. Her voice shakes as she continues, her calm facade cracking. You didn't just take his company. You took his life. He lost everything because of you, his business, his dignity, his will to live. And when he couldn't take it anymore, he ended his life. He feels the ground shift beneath him, the weight of her words pressing down on his chest like a crushing wave. I didn't know, he stammers, his voice barely above a whisper. Of course you didn't, she snaps, her eyes blazing with anger and pain. People like you never care about the lives you destroy. You only see numbers, profits, victories. But for us, it was everything. He stumbles back, his legs weak, and leans against the balcony railing for support. His mind is a whirlwind of memories and emotions, guilt, regret, disbelief. He wants to defend himself, to say that it wasn't personal, that he was just doing business. But the words die in his throat. How could he justify something so cruel? Her tears glisten in the city lights, but her voice remains steady. You think you're the victim here, she says, her tone biting. You've spent your life destroying others, and now you can't even face the consequences. He feels exposed, stripped of the armor he's spent years building. For the first time, is forced to confront the reality of his actions, the lives he's ruined, the pain he's caused. And it's unbearable. I'm sorry, he chokes out, his voice breaking. I didn't know. I didn't mean to. Sorry, she interrupts, her laugh cold and hollow. Sorry doesn't bring my father back. Sorry doesn't erase the years of pain and struggle you put my family through. He wants to say more, to explain, to beg for forgiveness. But he knows it's too late. The damage is done. Impact on the relationship. The air between them is heavy with unspoken words, the tension almost suffocating. Everything between them has changed in an instant. The power dynamic has shifted completely. She's no longer the vulnerable woman he thought he could control. She's the one holding all the power now, and he's at her mercy. You've always seen people as pawns, she says, her voice softer now but no less intense. But this time, you're the pawn, and I've been playing you from the start. Her words are a knife to his heart, each one cutting deeper than the last. He thought he was in control, thought he was the one orchestrating the game. But she's been 10 steps ahead of him all along. I approached you on purpose, she continues, her gaze unwavering. I accepted your bet because I wanted you to feel what it's like to lose, to be powerless, to suffer. He can't meet her eyes, the shame too overwhelming. And what now? He asks, his voice barely audible. What happens now? She takes a step closer, her voice calm but filled with resolve. Now, you live with it. You live with the guilt, the regret, the knowledge that you're not the man you think you are. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally understand what it feels like to be human. With that, she turns and walks back into the penthouse, leaving him alone on the balcony, the weight of her words pressing down on him like a vice. Aftermath of the reveal. The rest of the night is a blur. He sits on the balcony, staring out at the city, his mind racing. Everything he's ever believed about himself, about his life, has been shattered. The wealth, the power, the success, it all feels hollow now. Her words replay in his mind like a haunting melody, each one cutting deeper than the last. He thought he was invincible, untouchable. But she's shown him the truth. He's just a man, flawed and broken, like everyone else. And as the first light of dawn breaks over the city, he realizes something he's never felt before. Fear. Fear of what's to come. Fear of what is lost. And fear of the man he's become. This scene delivers the emotional and narrative payoff of the story, with the reveal of her backstory flipping the dynamic completely. The millionaire's arrogance and confidence crumble under the weight of his guilt, while the woman emerges as a powerful force, taking control of the narrative. The impact on their relationship is profound, setting the stage for the next phase of the story. The days that follow the revelation are a blur for him. His once carefully constructed world now feels like a house of cards, teetering on the edge of collapse. Everywhere he turns, He is reminded of the man he thought he was, and the man he has been revealed to be. The truth haunts him like a ghost, gnawing at his insides, stealing his peace. It's as if the walls are closing in on him, suffocating him with his own guilt. In the silence of the penthouse, he often finds himself staring out the window at the sprawling city below, but he doesn't see the skyline anymore. All he sees is the life he's destroyed, the people he's hurt, and the past he can't outrun. The laughter of his former success feels like a distant memory, a cruel mockery of what he now knows he is, a man who used people like pawns in a game he didn't understand. The weight of the truth settles deep within him, and it's as if a part of him has died. His days are filled with an oppressive numbness, a constant reminder that the woman he tried to control is now the one in control. Every moment spent in her presence feels like a physical ache, a reminder of how far he's fallen. But it's not just guilt that eats at him. There's fear, too, a creeping, all-encompassing fear that consumes him. The fear of what comes next, the fear that she might not be done with him yet. As the days pass, the cracks in his empire begin to show. The once impenetrable fortress of his business is now under siege. His board members, who once followed his every word, now question his decisions. Deals he had taken for granted begin to fall apart. Competitors he had crushed with ease now smell weakness, and they close in, taking advantage of every chink in his armor. His personal life, too, has begun to unravel. The people who once surrounded him with sycophantic smiles now avoid his gaze. Former friends, colleagues, and even family members seem to sense the change in him. They no longer look at him with admiration or respect, but with pity, like he's a man walking toward his own self-destruction. He tries to hold on, to salvage what's left of his fortune and reputation, but it's futile. The life he built, the one he thought would protect him from the consequences of his actions, is slipping through his fingers. Every attempt to right his wrongs only seems to deepen the hole he's dug for himself. Late one night, he sits in his office, staring at a stack of paperwork. His hands tremble as he reaches for the phone, dialing numbers he's called 1,000 times before. But this time, no one answers. The sound of the ringing echoes in his ears, a cruel reminder that the world he once controlled has moved on without him. She, on the other hand, seems more untouchable than ever. If anything, the power dynamic has shifted even further in her favor. She no longer plays by his rules. She doesn't need him, she's shown him that. Her calm demeanor, her confidence, it all feels like a weapon now. She knows the truth, and she holds it over him like a sword. It's clear she doesn't just want revenge. No, her actions are far more calculated, deliberate. She's dismantling him, piece by piece. His contacts, his allies, his trust, it all slips away in her wake. She doesn't need to shout or make demands. Her silence, her indifference, is the greatest weapon she could wield. At the office, she's become an enigma, a shadow that looms over him. She walks through the halls with quiet confidence, her every move deliberate. Her influence has spread, like a quiet storm, and soon enough, people start to listen to her more than him. They seek her opinion, her approval, even when she's not in the room. His empire, the one he thought would give him everything he ever wanted, now feels like it's crumbling under the weight of his own mistakes. She knows exactly how to undermine him. With a glance, a word, a well-timed gesture, she forces him into a corner. There's no escape. She's no longer a vulnerable woman he can manipulate. She's a force he can't reckon with. In a desperate attempt to regain some semblance of control, he reaches out to her. At first, he tries with anger. He demands to know why she's doing this, why she's ruining him. But his words fall flat, like an empty threat, and she doesn't even flinch. She simply looks at him with that same inscrutable expression. "Is this really what you want?" he asks, his voice laced with frustration. "I gave you everything. What more do you want from me?" She doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she takes her time, her gaze cool and distant. "I've already taken what I need from you," she replies softly, her tone almost pitying. "You're just too blind to see it." He tries a different approach. This time, he offers an apology, a real one. He tells her he's sorry for everything, the way he treated her, the people he hurt, the choices he made. He promises to change, to make things right. He tells her he'll do anything to make amends. But she only shakes her head. There's no warmth in her eyes anymore. Your words mean nothing to me, she says, her voice steady but cutting. You had your chance. You failed. The words sting, but they are not enough to bring him to his knees. She's already moved on. She doesn't need him anymore. His desperation reaches a fever pitch when he decides to take matters into his own hands. He arranges a private meeting, a last-ditch attempt to reclaim something, anything, from the wreckage of his life. This time, he's ready to fight. He's going to win her over. He's going to convince her that she's wrong, that they can still have something, anything, together. When he sees her, she's as composed as ever. There's a slight, unreadable smile on her lips, but it's not the smile of someone who's interested in reconciliation. No, it's the smile of someone who's won. The game is over. He stands before her, offering everything he has left. I can fix this, he says, his voice strained but full of conviction. I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me another chance. Her gaze pierces through him, and for a moment, there's a flicker of something, maybe pity, maybe even amusement. But whatever it is, it's gone before he can grasp it. You don't get it, do you? She says, her voice soft but final. You've already lost. You can't buy what you've never understood. And with that, she turns and walks away, leaving him standing there, powerless, unable to stop the final, devastating realization from sinking in. He's lost everything. The man, once a king in his own world, is now nothing more than a broken shell of who he used to be. The empire he built is no more than a memory, his reputation in tatters, and his future uncertain. The woman he tried to control has moved on, leaving him behind in the dust of his own failures. The consequences of his actions have caught up with him, and now there's nothing left to do but live with the weight of his own choices. The shock of his life wasn't the revelation of her past, it was the realization that he was never truly in control. And now, there's no going back. This scene marks the downfall of the protagonist as his empire collapses under the weight of his actions, while the antagonist solidifies her position of power. His desperate attempts to regain control only emphasize his futility, and the power dynamic has irreversibly shifted. The emotional, psychological, and situational consequences of their choices become undeniable, leading to the final unraveling of everything he once believed he could hold. The air feels heavier now, suffocating, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The man stands in the grand, empty hallway of his penthouse, staring at the door that separates him from her. This is it, the moment that will decide everything. He's walked this path of destruction for so long, and now, at the end of it, he has nowhere to turn. The money, the power, the influence, all of it has failed him. It didn't protect him. It didn't give him what he wanted. It didn't buy her love or trust. And now, standing on the edge of ruin, he knows there's no escape from the consequences of his actions. He knocks once, twice, his heart thumping in his chest. The sound of footsteps echoes from behind the door, deliberate, measured. When it finally opens, she stands there, as calm and composed as ever. It's as if nothing has changed, as if this moment isn't the culmination of everything that's transpired. His breath catches in his throat. He wants to shout, to beg for mercy, to ask her to understand that he's sorry, that he was wrong. But the words stick in his throat. He's been a fool, and deep down, he knows there's no way to undo the damage. She looks at him, her gaze cold, detached. You wanted control, she says softly, her voice carrying an edge of finality. You wanted to win. But you've already lost. The ultimate consequence, the final confrontation is brief, but it is brutal. Every word exchange between them feels like a hammer striking a nail, driving deeper and deeper into his soul. There's no room for pleading, no space for excuses. She doesn't need to say much. Her presence, her quiet power, is enough to make him realize the depth of his failures. Do you understand now? She asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you see what you've done? His body feels numb, his thoughts scattered. He wants to scream, to cry, but all he can do is stand there, unable to move, unable to make her see the desperation clawing at his insides. The life he built, his empire, his reputation, his wealth, none of it matters anymore. The truth hits him with a force he wasn't prepared for. It's not just the loss of money or status, it's the loss of everything that made him feel powerful. His pride, his arrogance, the way he thought he could manipulate the world, all of it has crumbled away. What remains is a man who no longer recognizes himself, a man who has lost his identity, his purpose, and, most painfully, the woman he tried to control. Her eyes pierce through him, and for a moment, he sees something he hasn't seen in a long time, pity, but it's not the kind of pity that makes him feel better. No, this pity is laced with finality. She feels sorry for him, but not in the way he hoped. She's sorry that he couldn't see the truth sooner. Everything you've built, everything you've fought for, has been reduced to this, she says, and it's the final blow. And I won't let you pretend it never happened. I won't let you walk away from what you did. The words hang in the air between them, sharp and unforgiving. The realization hits him like a tidal wave. There's no turning back now. She has destroyed him, not just in a physical sense, but in a deeper, more profound way. All that he was, all that he thought he could be, is gone. As she walks away, leaving him standing there in the ruins of his former life, the man is left to reflect on everything that has happened. It's not a sudden realization, rather, it's a slow, suffocating understanding that washes over him like cold water. He thinks back to the early days, when he first met her, when he was sure that money could solve everything. He thought that if he just threw enough wealth, enough power, at her, she would fall in line. He believed that love could be bought, that loyalty could be secured with a few zeros on a check. He was wrong. So wrong. Now, as he stands in the desolate silence of his empty home, he realizes just how deeply his own arrogance has shaped the man he's become. He's no longer the confident, self-assured millionaire he once was. He's a broken man, stripped of everything that gave him purpose, his money, his power, his status. There's no one left to blame but himself. He can't hide behind his wealth anymore. He can't buy forgiveness. He can't manipulate people into believing he's the man he once was. His actions have destroyed everything, his relationships, his sense of self, his very identity. As he stares into the abyss of his own failure, he realizes the full cost of his greed. It wasn't just money that he lost, it was everything that truly mattered. The love, the trust, the respect he thought he could manipulate into existence. He had it all, but he never saw what really mattered until it was too late. The final confrontation, the breaking point of this destructive journey, has come and gone. The man, once a king in his own kingdom, is left a mere shadow of his former self. The empire he fought so hard to build is in ruins, his wealth a distant memory, and his future uncertain. He looks around him at the remnants of the life he thought he controlled, and for the first time, he feels the weight of his own failure in its full, crushing force. As he stands there, alone, he knows there's no going back. The choices he made have led him to this point, and he's left to live with the consequences of those choices. There's no more power to grasp, no more people to manipulate. All that remains is the bitter taste of defeat. The woman he tried to control is now free, free of him, free of his games, and is left to pick up the pieces of a life that was once his, but is now forever beyond his reach. In the end, the price of his arrogance has been more than he could ever afford to pay. This scene marks the culmination of the protagonist's downfall as he faces the consequences of his actions. The final confrontation is not just a physical clash but an emotional and psychological reckoning that leaves him broken and powerless. As he reflects on his journey, he comes to understand the true cost of his arrogance, realizing that in trying to buy love and control, he lost everything that truly mattered. What began as a seemingly harmless game of power, control, and manipulation has now come to its inevitable end. The man who once ruled his world with money and influence is left broken, alone, and humbled by the very forces he sought to control. In his desperate attempt to buy love and loyalty, he lost more than just his wealth. He lost his identity, his dignity, and perhaps, the one thing he valued most, genuine human connection. Power, control, and manipulation might work for a time, but in the face of real emotions and the consequences of one's actions, they crumble like fragile sandcastles in a storm. His belief that he could bend the world to his will has been shattered. The shock of realizing that the tables have turned on him has left him vulnerable in a way that his money never could. Now, standing amidst the ruins of his former life, he's forced to ask himself, will he ever recover? Can someone like him ever find redemption? Or has the damage been done beyond repair? The lesson here is clear: no amount of wealth or power can substitute for true love and respect. And in the end, it's the human connections we make, the choices we make, and the way we treat others that define us. The story serves as a powerful reminder that no matter how much we try to manipulate our circumstances, the truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, we must face it. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the millionaire's journey? Do you believe he could ever change, or is he doomed to live with his guilt forever? Was there a moment in the story that really stood out to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stories like this one, make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on our latest content. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep creating content that resonates with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.